Alright, in this video we are going to have a look at creating, first of all, some little gems that we can pick up. Then secondly, we're going to be making some text that will store the value of the gem in a variable and then update it to the screen. And then thirdly, we're going to get the camera to follow the player around so that we can make and design a bigger level. So first, let's add those gems. We're going to add in a new object, and I'm going to look for this in the asset store, and it's called gem. You can use any of these, but don't use the gem outline. Just any of the different colored gems and add it to the game. And we've got this gem here. Now this particular gem is not going to have any behaviors associated with it. We're just going to drag it into the game. So we just drag it, a few of these in. Put them wherever you want. This is just a test run. Okay. So with this done, what we're going to do is switch over to the events, because if we hit play now, you'll see that we can walk around them, but nothing happens. We can't pick them up, we can't collect them, nothing happens. So what we're going to do is go over to the events. Now, if you don't see this, if you see something else where it already says add a condition up here, you're probably in the old version and you'll want to go File, Preferences, or you probably still have the old version set up, and then tick display, tick these. Make sure all of these are ticked essentially, and then click close. So that when you click add a new event, it says add condition, but when you click add condition, we get some of this stuff here. Now what we want to do is click red player, and we want to look at collision, and then collision with the blue gem. And then just click OK. Now what this option over here is saying is it says you can ignore objects that are touching each other but on their edges but are not overlapping. We'll actually say yes for this, because unless you overlap the gem, we don't want to pick it up. Now if you click invert the condition, what that's going to do is make it say when the red player is not colliding with the blue gem, which we don't want. We only want it to do something when it's colliding with the blue gem. We click OK. So what it does is it adds an event here for us, or a condition, which is the red player is in collision with the blue gem. Now when that happens in the game, we can add some actions and we can tell it what to do. So this is going to be pretty simple. We're going to have the blue gem, and we are going to delete the specified object. Delete the blue gem. Now if we run our game, we can touch the blue gems and they get deleted. Pretty easy. Now I think I might be able to position myself so that I'm just touching the blue gem on the edge, and then I did overlap it slightly there. So what we've got here is the collection part of it, but we actually need somewhere to store the values of the gems that we've collected. So for that, we're going to go back to here. We're going to add in two things. First, we're going to add a new text object. It's going to be a new object from scratch, and it's going to be text. Now we're not going to worry about any fancy fonts here, but we are going to change the name of this to be called gem counter. The initial text to display is going to say gems:0. We can make it in bold if you want, it's okay. And then we're going to drag that out so it's kind of in the top right corner of our scene. If you're not sure where that is, go and set up your grid. I'm going to choose a lighter color for the grid there. Apply. That way I can see the outline of where my level is. That's kind of the camera as well. And now if we go and hit play, we can collect the gems, but the text doesn't change. So in order to get that text to change, we need to start keeping track of how many gems we've got, and then tell this text to update. If you remember anything from Scratch or some of the things we did last year, you should be familiar with the concept of variables. So we're going to add a variable to this scene. And to add a variable to the scene, we right click on it, go to Scene Properties, and then Edit Scene Variables just down here. So in here we're going to call this gems, and click Apply. And then we're going to go back to our events. So what we're going to do here is, again, red player is in collision with the blue gem. We're going to delete the blue gem. We're going to add an action, which is going to be other actions. And we're going to look for variables value of a scene variable. The variable is going to be gems. We're going to add 1 to that variable, and we click OK. So change the scene variable gems plus equals 1. That means add 1 to the current value. So if the current value is 0, the new value will be 1. If the current value is 1, the new value will be 2. Then lastly, we need to update the text. So here we can go gem counters, modify the text. And this is a little bit tricky. You're going to have to remember this. We're going to say set to, and now there's a little bit of programming knowledge in here that you're going to need. The first thing we want it to say is gems, but we can't just write gems because first of all, that's the name of the variable that we're using, and it also doesn't know what gems is. So what we want to do is set a text value in here. It says you must enter a text or a valid expression call. So we're just going to say gems. But we also want to have that colon in there to separate it. So we go space and then colon and then space again. Then this is the tricky bit. Okay, we want to add in a variable. So what we're going to do here, we type plus and we're going to type, I don't think we can do this, toString. No, we can't. Plus variable string and then the name of a scene variable, which is gems. That's the one that we made. Okay, now this has to be a capital V, this has to be a capital S. This doesn't, this could really be whatever you want, but as you'll see in a sec, if we go back to here, it's already set like that. So if we change it, it's going to look really obvious. So when we hit play, now what should happen is I get that, and it updates that whole text line at the top. Done. The next part, we're going to look at changing the camera. So we'll go back to here, and we're going to add a new event for this one. We're actually not going to have a condition. If we don't have a condition, it means that it will always do the code that's over here. So we're just going to add an action. And the action is going to be other actions, and we're going to look for camera. We can actually type camera in, center the camera on an object, and we're going to center it on the red player. And then we click OK. Now we hit play. Oh, we've got an error here. As you can see, our text moves around with our background. Now this is easily fixable. I'm going to show you how to do this, but the camera does move as well, so that's really cool. We could actually have a really big level and make some more detail in there, but we are going to fix up that text bit up here. Okay, so what we're going to do is looking down the bottom here, you'll notice that I've already had this open for a while. It's the layers editor. So I'll just close it, and then up the top here, open the layers editor. I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to call it text layer. Or maybe I'll call it UI layer for user interface. You could call it HUD, heads up display. You could call it something like that. Okay, then I'm going to click on the gems counter here and change it from the base layer to the UI layer. And now when I hit play, the camera doesn't change on the UI layer, it only changes on that base layer. So now we get that little display showing up in the corner. And I've collected all the gems. I thought I had 7 gems. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So why did it only say 6? Ooh, that's an interesting bug. I'm going to reset that again. See if I can replicate that. So when I hit both at the same time, it only adds 1 on, which is kind of interesting. Let's see if it does it here as well. Yeah, it does. Now I'll have a look and see if I can figure that bug out. But it's not a big issue at the moment. Easy fix with that would just be to space the gems out a little bit more, and that way the player can't hit 2 at a time. But I'll have a look and see if I can fix that. And if I can, I will apply it in the next video.